Hi guys, my name is Cades. I've been playing CarX for roughly 9 months now, and I would say I'm pretty okay at the game. My goal with this video is to teach you the basics and the fundamentals you need to learn to master this game, starting from the very beginning. Hopefully these skills will be able to teach you what you need to know to work your way up to becoming a pro. Before we dive into the depths of this game, I would like to mention a few things. 1. This tutorial will be made coming from somebody who plays with a controller. This does not mean that you cannot learn from this video if you're using keyboard and mouse or a wheel, but some of the settings and controls we go over might not apply specifically to you. 2. Just because you're not a complete beginner doesn't mean you won't benefit from the ideas and skills I teach you in this video. I myself have found beginner videos that have taught me things that I didn't know half a year into playing this game. And finally, 3rd, I do not claim to be the best player out there. I'm sure someone watching this is probably way better than me, and that's totally okay. My job here is not to be better than all of you, but rather organize the steps you should take if you want to become a better player. Moving on to sections, I'm going to be splitting this video up into a few different parts to organize and explain all the different fundamentals and topics of CarX. I will outline each section as a chapter so you can better follow along where we are. If you already understand or know a part that I cover, feel free to skip over to a part of the video that will be more beneficial to you. By now I assume that you've already downloaded and installed the game, but let's give the menu a super quick look. At the top we have the single player and multiplayer tabs. In the single player tab, you will find all of your training game modes, and this is where you will spend most of your time practicing. In the multiplayer tab, we have the server selector, where you can find servers made by players just like yourself where people can join and drift together. A quick note on navigating the server selector. Make sure your region is set to the proper location, as well as make sure you don't have any filters on. If you do have filters on, make sure that they are not going to hide servers from you that you might not want to hide. I would also like to point out that different servers often have different events. Some players have car meets where they show off their liveries, which are designs on their cars. Some players like to host drift events where they create large tandems, and some players just like to drift around and practice with one another. Whatever event you're looking for, this is the place to find it. Now that we have gone over how to navigate the game, let's go over one of the more crucial steps to becoming a pro, having the proper settings. To access your settings, navigate to the settings tab in the top next to multiplayer. Once you're there, go ahead and start out with game. These settings are going to apply specifically to more feature-related aspects of the game. Here we can edit our UI and change a few of the game's mechanics for our own liking. Go ahead and copy down my settings now, and we will move on to graphics. Graphics settings are going to be important for making sure your game runs as smooth as possible while still looking good. I will quickly go through these settings and tell you what they mean so you can adjust them to best fit your needs, otherwise copy down my settings. The screen resolution is going to be the size of your screen. If you play on PC, you will most likely keep this at 1920 by 1080 or 2560 by 1440 if you have a 1440p monitor. Full screen should be enabled. It allows your device to dedicate more resources to this specific task. Your vertical FOV is a personal choice, but I like to keep mine at 70. Smoke is also personal preference, but generally when you're drifting behind someone in a tandem for example, you're going to want smoke to be off so you can see more in front of you. The texture compression option allows the game to compress and dequalitize car decals if needed to make the game run smoother. It is on by default. VSync should always be off unless your game runs absolutely terribly. VSync uses the specs on your monitor to adjust the game setting to fit and prevent screen tearing. While this does help with screen tearing, it generally degrades the overall performance and the smoothness of the game, so I would keep it off all the time. Going into the quality settings, I keep all of my settings on max. I have a decently powerful computer, but feel free to lower these settings to keep your game's performance smooth. In the control settings, we are going to be editing how we interact with the car when in-game. If you would like to adjust any of your keybinds, simply click on your method of input and edit your binds. But besides that, we will move on to the advanced control settings. In the advanced control settings tab, we will find two very important settings, the gearbox type and the clutch type. To explain these briefly, the gearbox type will decide whether you will manually upshift and downshift between gears when playing. I recommend you have this on always because it gives you much better control of the car, and it's more fun to play with in my opinion. The second option is the clutch. The clutch setting determines whether you need to hold down the clutch when shifting gears or if you would like to shift gears without worrying about the clutch. I prefer to use an automatic clutch, but using a manual clutch will also give you more advanced control of your car and allow you to perform tasks such as clutch kicks and so forth. For the rest of these settings, they should be on default, but in case they're not, copy down my settings. For the sound settings, These are all personal preference, but feel free to copy down my settings. Now that we have you prepared with all the knowledge and proper settings you need to know, let's jump into the game and start driving. I'm going to start off by navigating to the training tab and loading the parking A map. I'm going to assume that you have already got to know the keybinds, but if you haven't, do so now. As we start to drive, you want to make sure you are shifting at the right times. You always start driving in first gear, and you are going to want to shift up about every 10 to 15 miles per hour. Starting off, a great example of this is at 10 miles per hour you should be in gear 1, 20 miles per hour gear 2, 30 miles per hour is gear 3, and so forth. But for practice's purpose, let's stay in only second and third gear while we learn to drift. Going into this first turn here, you're going to want to start our drift by tapping the handbrake and turning our tires to one side to swing the back of the car around, initiating the drift. Make sure to be tapping the handbrake and not the foot brake. The handbrake is going to show a white bar at the bottom right, while a foot brake will show a red bar. When going into the turn, we want more drift time, not the faster time. So when you bring the back of your car around, make sure that the back of your car is close to the edge on the back side, and that the front of your car is not close to the edge. We're going for a longer drift time with higher drift points rather than a faster time around the corner. So rather than hugging the inside of the corner, you're going to want to hug the outside. So not the side that's closest to your left, but the side that's furthest to your right. The back of your car should be close to clipping the side, just like you can see here. Sometimes you might tap the back of your car on a wall, and that's totally fine. I recommend you try this for about half an hour and get used to the mechanics of the game, then come back once you've finished getting used to it. Now that you know the basics of this game, how to drift, the settings to use, and now that you have a general grasp on the game, I urge you to explore more. Go check out the multiplayer tab and go make some friends. Explore the customization options, tune your car, and make some liveries. There's lots to do in this game, and I'm sure you will enjoy it just as much as I do. I hope from this video that you were able to take away some good foundation knowledge and learn something. Even if this isn't your first time playing the game, I hope you did learn something. My name is Cades, and that's all from me. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.